Let's start with women. A woman is born with her value. And I want you to understand what that actually means, because most people say it and move on without actually explaining it. A woman's core biological value, the thing that the dating market and frankly human nature respond to, is tied to her youth, her beauty, and her fertility. These are not things she earned. She came into the world with them. A 22-year-old woman who has done nothing with her life still has men pursuing her aggressively. That is not because of her character. That is not because of her accomplishments. That is because her biological value is at or near its peak. And every man on some level, whether he thinks about it consciously or not, is wired to respond to that. Now that value has a shelf life. It does not disappear overnight, but it does depreciate over time naturally, and it depreciates faster when she makes choices that spend it down. Every serious relationship where she gives everything and walks away with nothing. Every situationship where she invests emotionally and gets used in return. Every time she trades her standards for attention, that is value leaving the account. A woman who understands this protects her value. She is selective. She does not give access to just anyone. She does not spend herself down chasing validation. Because she understands that what she was born with is a resource, and resources have to be managed. Now a man enters the world with something completely different. He does not enter with value. He enters with potential, raw material, nothing finished. A 22-year-old man with no skills, no resources, no discipline, no direction. The market treats him accordingly. Women are not pursuing him. Women are not fighting over him. He is largely invisible to the women he most wants attention from. And that is not cruel. That is just how it works. Because a man's value is not given, it is built. Every skill he develops, every dollar he earns, every leadership quality he cultivates, every time he does the hard thing when the easy thing was available, that is value being created from scratch. And here is where it gets interesting. A man's value in the dating market actually increases with age when he is building. The man who is disciplined, resourceful, and established at 35 or 40 is more attractive to more women than he was at 22. That trajectory is the opposite of a woman's biological peak. He is building when she is preserving, and that asymmetry is not an accident, it is design. Now let's talk about hypergamy, because this word gets thrown around a lot, and people need to actually understand what it means and why it matters. Hypergamy is the biological and behavioral pattern in women where they consistently seek partners who are at or above their own level, stronger, more capable, more resourceful, higher status. This is not a theory. This is documented across cultures, across centuries, across... Now let's talk about hypergamy, because this word gets thrown around a lot and people need to actually understand what it means and why it matters. Hypergamy is the biological and behavioral pattern in women where they consistently seek partners who are at or above their own level, stronger, more capable, more resourceful, higher status. This is not a theory. This is documented across cultures, across centuries, across species. Women do not seek down. They seek up, always. Look at what happens when women become highly educated and financially successful. You would think they would have more options. The opposite happens. Studies consistently show that highly successful women report finding it harder to find a partner. Not because men won't pursue them, but because their hypergamous instinct narrows their acceptable pool even further. They now need a man who is above them. And at their level, that pool is smaller. A man who makes less than her makes her feel like she is settling. A man she can intellectually dominate does not create attraction. It creates contempt. A man who backs down every time she pushes feels weak to her on a biological level, not just mentally but physically. Her body does not respond to softness the way it responds to strength. She wants to feel like she chose up, like she found the best available option. because her entire nature is oriented around securing the best possible protection and provision for herself and for any children she might have. That is ancient wiring. It does not care about modern sensibilities. And here is what that means for this conversation. If a woman is always, by biological design, seeking the best, seeking above herself, seeking the highest value option in the room, then what she is seeking is a prize. She is prize-seeking by nature. Follow that logic to its conclusion, and you arrive at this. The prize is the man who built himself into something worth seeking. That is not arrogance. That is just following the argument where it leads. But now I want to make a distinction that most people miss, and it matters a lot. A prize and a trophy are not the same thing. A prize is what you seek. A trophy is what you earn when you win. When a team wins a championship, they do not say they found a prize. They say they won a trophy. The trophy is the symbol of their achievement. The proof that they competed, they sacrificed, they became good enough, and they won. A high-value woman, a woman of real character, real femininity, real partnership, she is a man's trophy. She is what he earns by becoming the kind of man worth winning. That is not a lesser position. That is actually one of the highest honors a woman can hold. She is the proof of what he built. The problem is, we have a generation of women who want to be the trophy without a man having to become anything to win them. And we have a generation of men who have not built anything worth the trophy they are demanding. Both sides have forgotten. And here is something I want you to really think about. Most men will sleep with most women. That is just the honest biological reality of how men are wired. A man's sexual appetite is not a character flaw any more than a woman's emotional nature is a character flaw. You cannot tell a man he needs to control his sexual drive the same way a man cannot tell a woman she needs to stop being emotional. You can manage it. You can lead it. You cannot eliminate it because it is built into the operating system. So when a woman says she gets men easily, she is not wrong. She can get a man to sleep with her, but that is not a win. That has never been a win, because what costs a man something, what actually requires him to choose to sacrifice other options, to invest his resources, his time, his protection, is commitment. When a man decides, this is my woman, when he reorganizes his life around her, when he gives her access to what he has built, that is the real victory for a woman. Commitment is what separates being wanted from being chosen, and most women are chasing being wanted when they should be focused on becoming the woman a real man chooses and keeps choosing. So how does a woman keep a man? And I want to give you something real here, not just a surface answer. She studies him. She actually learns how he thinks, what he needs, how he processes things, what recharges him and what depletes him. Most women spend enormous energy expecting men to learn them, but invest almost nothing in learning men. They carry assumptions that men love the way women love, that men need the same things women need, that men communicate the same way women communicate, and then they are confused when things break down. A man does not feel loved the way a woman feels loved. A man feels loved when his woman respects his leadership, when she protects his peace, when she does not use his vulnerability against him during arguments, when she adds to his vision instead of competing with it, when she makes his environment feel like rest instead of another battlefield. The woman who understands this, who actually studies the man she is with, becomes irreplaceable to him, not because she performed for him, but because she actually knows him. And a man who feels genuinely known and genuinely respected by his woman does not want to leave that. That is rare. Beauty is common. Understanding is rare. And rare things get held onto. Let me say one more thing, and I'll close here. Men and women do not love the same way, and women have been taught to measure a man's love by how well he mirrors her emotional expression. If he is not saying it the way she says it, she assumes he does not feel it. That is the wrong measuring stick. A man's love is expressed through action, through what he is willing to sacrifice, through who he will stand against to protect her, through how he organizes his resources around her well-being. A man who would genuinely die for a woman, not as a... Proverbs 31 does not describe the excellent woman as the most beautiful woman. It does not describe her as the most desired. It says her worth is far above rubies. Worth, character, what she contributes, what she adds, what she brings that could not be easily replaced. That is the standard Scripture sets, and it goes both directions. Nobody is automatically the prize. A woman has to preserve and develop what she was given. A man has to build from the ground up, but both of them, when they have done the work, should be looking across at each other, believing they have something rare. He should believe she is his greatest trophy. She should believe he is the best prize she could have found, and when both people genuinely feel that, that is when you have something that lasts. Stop asking who is the prize. Start asking whether you have become one. Walk with God while you work for the crown. When he crowns you king, tell the world of the truth you found. That's king-level mindset. Kings don't beg, kings don't bow, kings build.